Welcome to Flourishing Flame, from burning out to burning bright with therapist and coach Leah Brown. Are you a people helper or caregiver, feeling overwhelmed, distant, cynical, and crispy around the edges? Join me to defeat burnout by learning how to manage stress and create deep connective relationships with others so that you can pursue your calling, providing light and warmth to those around you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 30 of the Flourishing Flame podcast. My name is Leah Brown, and I'm your host. When I was a young teenager, I learned a concept called Unshakeable Unbreakables. These are personal rules that I made the decision before I was faced with the question. In this case, it was automatic no answers, no matter what the situation. Like, will I get into a car with someone who's been drinking? Will I use drugs or alcohol if it's offered to me? For those of us who grew up in the 1980s, we remember the response, just say no. As people who find fulfillment and purpose in helping others, we can have a tendency to give to others of our time and our energy in ways that it eats it up. And it takes the time and energy that we need for other things or other people, other relationships. Another thing that can happen when we have lots of decisions is that we can have decision fatigue, and it can wear us down to have to think through all of the decisions that are going on and what do we need to do and what are the factors that we haven't taken into consideration. If you have kids, you know what that's like. I have teenagers in my house. 3 of them actually. And there's always this, hey, mom, can I do this? Can I do that? And when it's in that isolation, away from thinking of all the other things that have to be done or have to be thought of, it's easier to say yes and then say, I totally forgot about this other thing that's going on. And we can miss details, or we can have decision fatigue where we're just so tired that we don't want to make another decision. Don't ask me what I want for dinner. It's just food. And so when we can take the priorities that we've been looking at and use them to create a framework so that your time and energy expenditure allows you to know when to respond with an empowering no and when to respond with a resounding yes. Because we want our yes to be our best yes, not just yes because it's easier than saying no. I want to give you some simple examples of a framework to help you understand what I'm talking about. So I had a friend, Samantha, who had a rule for her kids that whenever they got a new toy, they had to get rid of an old toy. And so this happened every Christmas, every birthday. After they opened their presents, they would go in and they would decide which toys that they already had that they were going to give away to be able to keep the new toys that they just got. Another example would be Judy, who made it a point that every time she had a box delivered at her house with things to come into her house, she would take that box and put some things into it to get rid of. And that did a couple of things. It gave her some motivation on buying more things, to not buy as many things, or maybe to combine shipping. And it allowed her to have an outflow of things out of her house, not just bringing more things in. I think my favorite example of a framework, though, is my friend Kari. She has a walking streak that she has walked every single day for 1,472 days. That's 4 years and 11 days. I actually texted her right before I started recording so I could make sure it was up to date. She started with 10,000 steps per day, every day for her first year. And then she moved it up to 11,000 steps. And starting in January, she started walking 12,000 steps per day. She does not play around. I'm personally impressed by her consistency. She and I were roommates at an event that we went to in February, and she was dedicated. Our retreat schedule threw off her regular schedule. But if for some reason she didn't get her steps in early in the day, then she went for a walk in the evening to make sure she got them in. Simple doesn't necessarily mean easy, but come on, talk about unshakable unbreakables. Her making this commitment means that she's saying yes to taking these steps, which means that there are other things she has to say no to so that she can be consistent with this bigger priority that she has. Another example of a framework is using time blocking. Time blocking is a framework where you take certain blocks of time to use for certain types of activities. So if you work from home, you might say 8 to 12 is a working time block. And then from 12 to 1, I'm going to take lunch. And then I'm going to have another working time block from 1 to 3. And then from 3 to 4, I'm going to take a break and do dinner prep or do things that need to be done around the house. What you do during those specific time blocks doesn't have to be measured out exactly. Oh, I'm going to do this and have a long list of items, but it's the idea that that time blocked out is for that thing. I read a book several years ago where it was a book for helping moms to schedule out their day. And the lady in the book had a lot of children and she was a homeschool mom. And so she loved to sew and would put a time block in her week where she would sew for a certain amount of time, like an hour and a half on Thursday afternoon. And the key to time blocking, one of the keys to time blocking is whatever you have the time dedicated for, when the time is done, you're done. You don't keep going into the next block of time. So for her, that would mean that she would sew until the end of that time block, and then she would stop. And because she created that space, she got sewing projects done that she wanted to get done that would not have gotten done if she was waiting for a good block of time to get it all done in. Time blocking was revolutionary for Claire, who I worked with. She was able to balance her work and the caretaking for her husband with a disability and get everything done that she needed to because she had a start and stop time for different blocks of time of things that she needed to do. And it allowed her to have the freedom to move from one thing to the next thing when she needed to because she already knew she was working on work stuff during this one block. And so when other things popped up that were work related, she could say, okay, I'll get to it when I get back to my work block, instead of feeling this pull that she had to quickly respond to every single thing and have things overlapping in her day. Would you like to take what you're learning through the Flourishing Flame and take it up a notch? I'm launching an online version of the Burnout Buster Blueprint, and I'm looking for listeners who'd like to help me test it out on a new platform at a significant discount. Sarah, one of my current participants, shared what she was learning gives her the endorphins of a spa treatment, but even better because it gives her a plan and a blueprint to care for others well without the stress and overwhelm. If you're interested, schedule your free consultation call on my website, leahlittlebrown.com. Another framework is to have a personal purpose statement or mission statement. Another, in kind of that same vein, is a personal constitution as a framework. When you have something like that and you have an opportunity that pops up, you can compare it to, this is what my purpose is. This is what my motivating statement is. This is what my personal constitution is. And you can work it through to see, does this opportunity fit with the framework that I already have for what I do want in my life? Creating a personal constitution is part of the work that I help others to do as a part of my Burnout Buster Blueprint course. And being able to look at what is your role and responsibility to yourself, to your family, to your community, to your job, or whatever it is that you have going on in your life, and being able to look at, what do I want that to look like for me? And as you're able to put those things together and put it in one place, you can see, hey, does this opportunity fit with what's going on in my life? Does this help me to fulfill the things that I see as important to me? Or is this something that's going to pull me away from these things that I know are important to me? So using a purpose statement, personal constitution, mission statement is just one of those ways that you can use a framework, just like time blocking. When we're making decisions ahead of time with our framework, we're reducing that hot seat feeling when we have to make a lot of decisions. We're reducing the opportunity for decision fatigue because we're making these decisions ahead of time. Atomic Habits is an amazing and wonderful book. And one of the things that I took away from it was how our brains are so wired to go to what we've always done. And our brains take the road of least resistance. When we create a framework, we're actually helping our brain to take the path of least resistance in a way that is serving us, as opposed to taking the path of least resistance in a way that we just kind of fall into obligations that we didn't really intend to have. So creating the framework allows us to think ahead of time to make the decision when it's not pressurized, when we can think it through and make the decision and create the framework that supports our life for the things that are important to us and how we spend our time and what we prioritize. As we put all these things together and move forward, it brings relief and peace and confidence that when we have things that come up, we can decide, is this an empowering no answer, or is this a resounding yes? Because it's our best yes. I hope that this has been helpful for you today and would love to hear your thoughts. Please contact me through my website, leahlittlebrown.com. You can also comment and subscribe to this podcast so that other people will be able to see it. When you rate it, then it helps it to show up when other people are doing searches. And I really would like to reach as many people as possible to help those who are serving others to be able to do it long term and to not burn out. Take care. Thank you for joining me today. If this episode added kindling to your flame, please leave a review and pass it on to a friend who could use some encouragement. You can connect with me and find additional resources at leahlittlebrown.com. Now go forth and burn in all your brilliance.